Hey everybody, Motivational Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. I am grinning or having a hard time not laughing because I just deleted somebody from the Economic Ninja channel, but it will make a great video. And so essentially, let me read the comment, and then I'm going to tell you what this video is about, okay? Because I think this could really encourage a lot of people. This is from Amar, and Amar comments, great news. This is about another channel, a video. But I believe the ninja is full of crap when it comes down to how many jobs and businesses he has had or has. My man is my age and I am a hustler. And this guy got me beaten by like 20 businesses. Is anyone verifying what these YouTubers are saying when it comes down to how many businesses they had? Now, first off, for the record, Amar is no longer with us. He will not be commenting on the videos anymore because I do that. I just, yeah, you're gone. If you're a moron, you're gone. And I only say moron to insult you. Now, but I want to tell a story first, and then I'm going to tell you about all the businesses I've ever had and all the jobs I've ever had. Because there was another moron in my life. His name was Mark. And I started working with Mark in the year 1999 as a firefighter. Mark at that time was in his late 30s and no, sorry, late 40s, and he was a complete and utter loser. Now, why do I say that? How can I say that about another firefighter? Let me tell you why. Mark had only had one job his entire life. Mark worked as a firefighter. He went and worked in the military, in the army, and as soon as he could get out, he got out and he got a job as a firefighter. And Mark, at the point that I met him, was still living in his mother's house. Now his mother had moved on, or not moved on, passed away, but was in another house because his mother had lots of homes. So he got to live in his mom's house rent free, right? So Mark had all these fancy toys, could not hold down a relationship, had never been married, could not hold down friendships because he was a total tool. I'm going to be honest with you. The guy was a tool. You watch things come out of his mouth, it would make me laugh. And he was a nice enough guy. But the reason why I say he was a moron was because he would speak about things that he had no concept about. And this is why it's about this exact same thing. Because around the firehouse, I would talk about certain things, and he goes, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I worked over here and worked and did this, or I worked over there and did that. And he goes, I don't believe that you had all these jobs. He goes, is there something wrong with you that you can't hold down a single job? So this is where I'm getting to making this video. It's probably going to be a long video because we're going to go through a list, and this is all off the top of my head. And there are a lot of people in this world that just say crap that they don't believe. And but the reason why that they don't believe someone, and the reason why is because they're judging you based off of how they feel about themselves. If Mark has never had more than one job, why should you either be allowed or have ever done it? Right? And unlike Mark, I don't live in mommy's house. I never have. As a matter of fact, when I moved out, I've never been given anything by my parents other than an amazing place to be raised. They paid for all of my living expenses while I was going through school. And then after that, I moved out, right? So my parents were great, very supportive, very loving. And the one thing that always bugged me about Mark is he would always get excited about when his parents were going to die. And that bugged the crap out of me. He's like, when they die, I'm going to get so much money. And I'm like, you're an I can't even say these words. But he's a loser, an absolute loser. And losers are always going to lose. They're always going to fail. They may think they get ahead. Hey, I got a fancy boat. Well, it's of course you live at mommy's house and you use your entire paycheck to buy a boat. You don't even have the friends to go on the boat with. You're just on the boat. And so anyway, you could tell my disdain for Mark, right? But let's go through the list of jobs. And the reason why is because even when Mark was telling me he didn't believe I had all these jobs, I would take my paid vacation from the fire station and I would go and work outages at our local nuclear power plant. And I would sit there and do things. Hold on a second. I got to smash a ant, economic ninja, in your face. You get an ant in the vehicle. You're like, what's going on with that? Anyway, sorry. I would work, my paid vacation. I would go work outages at the nuclear power plant. Then I also had the palm tree business and all kinds of stuff. I always had multiple things, always multiple streams of revenue coming in. Well, just like in Amar's case, how do you do that? Amar's case, right? He's saying that I've got him beat because I've got like 20 businesses, but I've actually never talked about 20 businesses on my channel. I've talked about flipping tractors, having a tractor business where I bought and sold tractors, bought and sold trailers, park models. Those are at different times. I sold palm trees, all that stuff. So let's start from the very beginning. Started selling candy when I was in the 6th grade. Killed it. Loved it. And guys, here, by the way, if you guys have a side hustle and you want to purchase, I'll put a link to my new course, but It's a living course. It's what, $199, and it's starting at the very basics, like literally how to come up with money for a side hustle by starting a garage sale, how to have a successful garage sale, how to pick a side hustle. I mean, it's very basic and it's going to be built out. So once you're in the course for whatever the cost is, you're in, and I'm going to keep putting out a lesson every month, and interviews and things like that, industry specific to side hustles and then how to turn into a business and then viable corporation. All right. So I started with the candy, crushed it. Then I started trading baseball cards. And by the time I was a sophomore, junior in high school, I started a baseball card shop. I actually rented space from a barber shop in the corner and bought 2 glass cases and had a little cash box, and I sold baseball cards. And I had always the baseball cards in there in display. From there, I started detailing cars. Before I had my own car, I would go around the street, and actually this was a little before the baseball card shop. I would wash people's cars. I would bring a bucket with all my cleaning supplies, and I would offer to wash people's cars for $5. Then I got more advanced, and I started, you know what, I'm gonna do this real quick. Open up the door to the truck, let some air in. Then I started detailing cars, waxing them, buffing them, stuff like that. And then I started getting more advanced where I could charge more, and that's how I bought my first car. Each time, it's not like a lot of people, they do something forever, right? But I'm always moving in and out. When I find something that's better, I switch. But in the switch, in the transition from going to like baseball cards to auto detailing, because I was making more money doing that, I was doing both at the same time. And then after a while, you just sort of phase out the baseball cards, right? All right, so we're on to cars. So then I got a job at a local hardware store, and that was my first real like paycheck job. I was really into remote control cars, and they had a hobby center, and I was always going in, and the owners liked me, and so I started working there, selling their remote control cars, building them. And a side hustle that I got out of that, working at the hardware store, when I would sell a very expensive remote control car, I came up with this little side gig where I said, hey, for $25, I will assemble the car, because they came in parts for you. It'll take me a couple days, and I will assemble the car for you. So I would take the car, and people were paying me. They would buy the thing, and then they would literally hand me the box and say, I'll come back in a couple days and I'll pick it up from you. They'd hand me 25 bucks. I would build the car at night, you know, and I would show, it was great. It was a fun little thing for cash. And then I would show up for it, you know, with the car built and take the money. After the hardware store, and I'm going to probably forget a ton of these, I started working for this chicken place called the Plump Chicken. Horrible story. I had to wear a hot, bright pink shirt and blue jean shorts. Most ugly uniform you've ever seen, and I roasted chickens. But it was because I had a crush on a girl that worked there, and they always had good-looking girls there, so I went there. Ended up getting the girl, and then dating another girl out of there too, so I guess I paid dividends. Let's see, where else did I work? Oh, I started working in the restaurant industry, and I was a busboy for 2.5 years until I was fired. Now, this is a good story. I put in my 2-week notice because I was going to Fire Academy. And on the last night of my 2-week notice, my last night, we were in the banquet room, and it was cleaned out, and my pager was going off because I was a volunteer fireman. So I got to go back. I was a volunteer fireman also for 2.5 years prior to this, or 2 years prior to this happening. My pager went off. Nobody was responding to the fire station. There were no full-time guys back there, and it was a bad accident down the street, and all we were doing is cleaning up. I knew I could be in and out of that call in 45 minutes. I ran. The fire station was next door to our restaurant. Ran, grabbed the engine, and took off. It ended up being a family friends that lived a couple blocks away from me, child that was in a horrible accident. Actually made the front page of the paper. I came back, and they literally fired me on the spot. I had like 1 hour left, and they fired me. And I had to leave. So I worked at a steakhouse for 2 years, 2.5 years. But the cool thing is I was going on a cruise the next week. So they had to give me my paycheck right away. It's the only job I'd ever been fired from. But it was on my last night. And what was really cool is I got to, that was one of the rare, most amazing saves I'd ever had. And made the front page of the paper. So it was pretty epic. So then being a firefighter, I had multiple fire jobs until I got my full-time career. And as a fireman, you only work 3 days out of the week. And so firemen have a real blessing with their schedule. They can always do side hustles. So I would be home. So to buy my first house, I started selling electric trains. And I liked electric trains, but I mean, I'm an adult. I don't play with them. But I always had an affinity for these trains called LGB. They're really big trains that are made for indoors, or they could be out in the garden all year long. really high quality, very expensive. And so I bought a train set that I always wanted for around my Christmas tree because it was 50% off. My wife said, "You've always wanted this, go for it." But I couldn't bring myself to keep it, so I started flipping it. I flipped one, I doubled my money, ran back down to the store, bought two more, and I flipped and flipped and flipped. And before you knew it, like about 6 months later, I have a room completely filled to the ceiling of these trains, like $20,000 worth of trains. So I liquidated half of them because what I was doing is I was selling them on eBay. And I was selling on eBay in like 1990 or 2000. Yeah, 2000, I think it was. And I'd sold hundreds and hundreds of transactions. And I was just absolutely crushing it. And I took half of that money and I put it down on our first house. So then that got interesting because, I was also garage sailing, buying things. I would go to Ross and buy designer clothes that were at Ross and sell them on eBay, um, and making money there. And then I moved into flipping homes because I started buying rentals, but then I was buying rentals in Arizona and New Mexico and things like that. And I turned around and I started flipping homes. So now I've got rentals I'm buying for long-term cash flow, and then I'm flipping homes in California, right? Well, it's interesting because then that started getting so busy, and I was always handy. I have a hobby of woodworking as well, and I was building cabinets and things like that, and that started turning into like I'm building cabinets for people and that kind of stuff. And then I needed a big truck because my Toyota truck wasn't pulling it because I started to have to get equipment. So that's when the tractors came into play, and then I started at the palm tree farm. I don't want this video to go too long, but you get an idea. Like, I've always had so many jobs. I've worked so many different places in my life. And the reason why I can say that it's because I worked multiple jobs and or multiple side hustles at the same time, because you never know, like, for a day that somebody, and my best friend told me once, he goes, "Well, why are we selling, tractor attachments, palm trees, and trailers?" And I said, "Because on any given day, you don't know what's going to sell. So it's nice to have a variety of things." We were sort of hedging ourselves. If nobody was in the trailer market that day, there was somebody calling for a palm tree. We didn't get too extended, but it was always great to have your hands in multiple different things. And that's something that really, I think, made me a well-rounded, not only investor, but a hustler, because I have so many different uh, understandings or knowledge base. I have a wider knowledge base because I've worked in so many different, aspects. I've worked construction jobs. Let's see. I worked for a cabinet installer also when I was, I want to say 18 years old, cabinet shop. That's where I learned all my cabinet skills. Um, Gosh, I know there's more jobs, but just going off the cuff. But I wanted to answer this because this is great, because this isn't the first time an idiot has sit there and said, "I don't believe that you've had that many jobs." Oh man, I'm a licensed real estate agent, and I was an owner, an equal one-third owner in a brokerage, a real estate brokerage that I started with a partner of mine, another real estate investor. Neither of us were real estate agents, but we owned the brokerage because we went and we showed a real estate appraiser that had her college degree. We taught her how to get her broker's license, and then we started our own brokerage. We were not even real estate agents. It's totally legal. I finally had to become a real estate agent, though, because she could not negotiate. We were negotiating, like, our largest property in the first 6 months was $33 million that we closed. And I'm like, man, I got to become a licensed agent just to be able to negotiate the sale between this hedge fund, this retirement fund, and the owner of this property, because it was a farm. And I knew how to do it, but legally I couldn't. So I ran out and I just challenged the test and got my agent's license. But so I've owned real estate brokerages. One of those brokerages was a property management company. So I have a background in property management. So you can see, like, right now, currently, the construction company that I own, I got that too. We scaled that back because we're getting ready for this crash. So we got rid of our employees. We found them other jobs, actually. That was the greatest thing. It's not firing people, it's helping them, right? So we helped people get better jobs with other construction companies. And now that company's still open, but it's essentially, you could think of it as a shell company, because we're not able to get the jobs that we once were, and we know that we're not going to be able to get them in the future. So we scaled that back. So I still have that company, still have to do, monthly, documentation on it, things like that, to keep it going. And we still do make money from that. By now, we're essentially briefcase contractors. We'll get a job and we'll sub it out to another company, right? So we have that company. I've got the cryptocurrency company that, we came about that by mining crypto, and that's scaled back a little bit too, just because of the cost of electricity, stuff like that. Um, what else? Oh, advertising company. I never talked about that. Out of Florida, where we help companies uh, do their social media. So we charge a company X amount to run their, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channels, all that kind of stuff, and give them professional editing services. We could build the websites, all that kind of stuff for a flat fee. That's happening right now too. Now, another reason why I'm able to do all those businesses, like the corporations, is because I have good partners. So you can't do all that by yourself. Side hustles, you do all that kind of stuff, but it's key to have good partners and good friends. All right, that's really key. I've done videos on that. I think I've got some coming onto the course where I actually introduce you to a couple of my partners, and we talk about the dynamics of having business partners. Um, but yeah, I just want to share that with you. I'm sure the second I hit the recording button and hit stop, I'm going to remember like a handful more jobs I've had or businesses. But I just want to share that with you because it's always fun to be able to call a spade and say, these people are idiots. But it's because they're judging you based off of how they feel about themselves. And some people are low achievers, like Mark. He's a low achiever, what I was telling you about. Lives in mommy's house, still does, has no friends. But he has no problem insulting other people because he has no concept of reality, because the only reality he knows is his own. I try and expand my reality by learning about other people's realities. If you can accomplish great things, that means I can accomplish great things if I'll just learn from you and not insult you along the way. So anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this. I thank you so much. It's fun to be able to talk. That's what this Ninja Motivation channel is about, to really get down to some different stuff outside of economic collapse, news, things like that. All right, guys, that being said, the Economic Ninja for the Motivation, Ninja Motivation. I don't even remember the channel's name. Who cares? I'm out.